Our daily Bible reading for February 18th. Our reading today comes from the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 27. We'll be reading verses 1 through 44. When morning came, all the chief priests and the elders of the people took counsel against Jesus to put him to death. And they bound him and led him away and delivered him over to Pilate the governor. Then, when Judas, his betrayer, saw that Jesus was condemned, he changed his mind and brought back the 30 pieces of silver to the chief priests and the elders, saying, I have sinned by betraying innocent blood. They said, What is that to us? See to it yourself. And throwing down the pieces of silver into the temple, he departed, and he went and hanged himself. But the chief priests, taking the pieces of silver, said, It is not lawful to put them into the treasury, since it is blood money. So they took counsel and bought with them the potter's field as a burial place for strangers. Therefore that field has been called the field of blood to this day. Then was fulfilled what had been spoken by the prophet Jeremiah, saying, And they took 30 pieces of silver, the price of him on whom a price had been set by some of the sons of Israel. And they gave them for the potter's field, as the Lord directed me. Now Jesus stood before the governor, and the governor asked him, Are you the king of the Jews? Jesus said, You have said so. But when he was accused by the chief priests and elders, he gave no answer. Then Pilate said to him, Do you not hear how many things they testify against you? But he gave him no answer, not even to a single charge, so that the governor was greatly amazed. Now at the feast, the governor was accustomed to release for the crowd any one prisoner whom they wanted. And they had then a notorious prisoner called Barabbas. So when they had gathered, Pilate said to them, Whom do you want me to release for you, Barabbas or Jesus, who is called Christ? For he knew that it was out of envy that they had delivered him up. Besides, while he was sitting on the judgment seat, his wife sent word to him, Have nothing to do with that righteous man, for I have suffered much because of him today in a dream. Now the chief priests and the elders persuaded the crowd to ask for Barabbas and destroy Jesus. The governor again said to them, Which of the two do you want me to release for you? And they said, Barabbas. Pilate said to them, Then what shall I do with Jesus, who is called Christ? They all said, Let him be crucified. And he said, Why, what evil has he done? But they shouted all the more, Let him be crucified. So when Pilate saw that he was gaining nothing, but rather that a riot was beginning, he took water and washed his hands before the crowd, saying, I am innocent of this man's blood. See to it yourselves. And all the people answered, His blood be on us and on our children. Then he released for them Barabbas, and having scourged Jesus, delivered him to be crucified. Then the soldiers of the governor took Jesus into the governor's headquarters, and they gathered the whole battalion before him. And they stripped him, and put a scarlet robe on him, and twisting together a crown of thorns, they put it on his head, and put a reed in his right hand. And kneeling before him, they mocked him, saying, Hail, King of the Jews! And they spit on him, and took the reed, and struck him on the head. When they had mocked him, they stripped him of the robe, and put on his own clothes on him, and led him away to crucify him. As they went out, they found a man of Cyrene, Simon by name. They compelled this man to carry his cross. When they came to a place called Golgotha, which means place of a skull, they offered him wine to drink mixed with gall. But when he tasted it, he would not drink it. When they had crucified him, they divided his garments among them by casting lots. Then they sat down and kept watch over him there. And over his head they put a charge against him, which read, This is Jesus, the King of the Jews. Then 2 robbers were crucified with him, one on his right and one on his left. And those who passed by derided him, wagging their heads and saying, You who would destroy the temple and rebuild it in 3 days, save yourself. If you are the Son of God, come down from the cross. So also the chief priests with the scribes and elders mocked him, saying, He saved others, he cannot save himself. He is the King of Israel. Let him come down now from the cross, and we will believe him. He trusts in God, let God deliver him now, if he desires him. For he said, I am the Son of God. And the robbers who were crucified with him also reviled him in the same way. A few thoughts for today. What must Pilate have thought there on his judgment seat, looking out over the howling mob? The anger they felt, the envy in their heart, and the hypocrisy they displayed by letting a murderer go free and calling for the death of an innocent man. Pilate must have seen through it all the way, yet something inside of him just couldn't do the right thing. Even his wife urges him to stay out of this, for a dream the night before had caused her no small amount of grief in this matter. Pilate's decisions were of his own free will. He chose at each point to succumb to his own selfish reasons rather than to do the right thing. Even when he asked the crowd when they cried, "Crucify him! Why, what evil has he done?" Luke tells us, and he said to them the third time, "Why, what evil has this man done? I have found in him no guilt demanding death. I will therefore punish him and release him." Luke 23:22. Pilate tried everything to get out of this predicament he was in. He tried to shift responsibility to Herod. He tried to let the crowd make his decision. He tried everything, it seems, but the right thing, which was to see this for what it was, a sham of a trial. Once again, we find that this is simply a fulfillment of prophecy. The innocent Lamb of God would be sacrificed and the guilty set free. Nothing about Barabbas is known beyond what is told in the Scriptures. Secular history says nothing of him or the insurrection he incited, nor the murder he committed. Everything about Jesus' final hours reeks of irony. Blood money to bribe Judas to betray him, mock trials with false testimony, a murderer set free while an innocent man is killed, mocked and scourged, insulted and beaten, crucified between two thieves, and then buried in a borrowed tomb. What a way to treat the one to whom we owe everything. We are truly fortunate we don't get what we deserve. I guess that's what's so amazing about the grace of God. A question of the day. Have you ever thought of how many cruel ironies there were in Jesus' final hours on this earth? And finally, a thought to meditate on this day. Consider everything that Jesus suffered so that we may have the opportunity to reign with him in heaven. And those are our thoughts for today, February 18th.